5 years ago, when I went to New York City for the first time, I stayed in an Airbnb with a drag queen in Brooklyn. Every morning I lived my New York fantasy, and I went on my way to the train station past a Jewish deli, walked in there, I ordered the same thing every morning: a Snapple, a bagel with lox, cream cheese, onions and capers every time for 2 weeks. Every morning. Now, I had plans to go back to New York City last year, but Miss Rona had other plans, and I live in Melbourne, so I can still live my New York fantasy here, right? Yeah, I can. Recently, I tried to by doing something lazy, which was buying ready-made bagels, and for some reason, it doesn't matter which brand I bought, they're always sweet, they're not chewy, and they're definitely not crispy on the outside, even when you toast them. So I decided to solve this by making my own, and I'm happy to report they are a million times better: chewy, crispy on the outside, really delicious, and they're easy to make, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. We're going to begin by preparing the yeast. So you need some warm water and some sugar. Then you're going to add some active dry yeast. You'll find this at your local supermarket, and it comes in sachets, or you can find it in kind of like a container, and you can just measure it using like a teaspoon. Mix, 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 and then you want to let this set aside for about 5 to 10 minutes in a warm spot. Today is actually a really nice day, so I'm going to pop mine outside in the sun. Now, the moment of truth is if your yeast mixture goes frothy, you know that it's active and your bagels are going to be nice and fluffy. If it's not frothy, then your yeast has died. Yes, that can happen. And you're going to need to use new yeast. I am a big believer in actually measuring out your ingredients. So first thing we're going to need is some bread flour. Bread flour is higher in gluten, and it's going to result in a chewier bagel. If you don't have bread flour, or you don't have access to it, you can simply just use regular flour. I'm going to add some salt in there as well, and we're going to mix that up. Then I'm going to add my yeast water mixture and mix that for 10 minutes until it reaches a really nice, smooth, elasticy dough. Again, popping this aside for an hour in a nice warm spot, and your dough is going to rise and get really fluffy. Everything bagel mix is an iconic part of bagels, especially in New York City, and it just adds so much flavor to bagels. Personally, I can't have one without this stuff on it. It's really addictive. It's really easy to make, and you probably have the ingredients at home already. So we're going to be using some fried shallots, some fried garlic, black sesame seeds, some white sesame seeds, and some salt. Now, you can add some caraway seeds, but it's not really everybody's cup of tea. It's up to you. I love them, but I forgot to add them. Our dough has risen, and this, I don't know why, but this just looks really cool to me. So what we're going to do is we're going to knead a little bit and form it into a nice ball, and you can see how smooth it is. It's great. Now, this is going to make us 8 bagels. So to get those nice and even, we're going to be using our scales, and it's roughly around 113 grams for each bagel. I dipped my hands in some flour because it helps stop this dough from actually sticking to your hands, and we're going to knead these into a ball, similar to how you do with some pizza dough. Then if you want, you can do this really cool thing with the palm of your hand where you kind of roll it around against the bench, and it just makes your dough so much rounder, and it kind of seals off the bottom, so you end up with a nice perfectly round of dough. Spray your baking tray with some oil spray, and then pop, I think about 6 or 8 should do it, maybe 6. Then you want to spray the top very lightly with some more oil, and then we're going to cover this with plastic wrap. That's going to stop the dough from sticking to the plastic wrap. Set this aside for 30 minutes to rise. You don't want to skip this, guys, because it actually makes all the difference, and it helps make these even fluffier and lighter. I actually think this looks really gross and cool at the same time, so adding your finger in the center of each dough. You can see these rose a little bit, by the way, and then what you want to do, you're going to be making that hole in the center, and I found the easiest way to do this is by using 2 fingers, and you kind of like making the dough hole bigger and stretching it out. This step, if you're not familiar with bagels, you'd be like, what? Why is he boiling these? Why isn't he just baking these? Well, if you boil them first before you put them in the oven, you actually get a really chewy bagel. So the longer you actually boil them, the more chewy they are. I would recommend 2 minutes on each side, but if you want them chewier, and I think by now you can tell I'm obsessed with the chewiness of bagels, I actually leave them for an extra 2 minutes. Pop them onto your baking tray, and then I just made some egg wash with 1 egg white and a tablespoon of water, whisked it, and then I'm going to brush it on the top of my bagels and then just sprinkle them with toppings, and that's going to help the toppings stick. Now, you don't have to have toppings, but I like having toppings. I think it adds a nice flavor. These are ready to bake, guys. We're going to bake them for 30 minutes. They're going to go really golden and crispy. I mean, look at the bottom of that bagel. Like, it's shiny and crispy and delicious. Now, here's my favorite way to eat bagels. Pretty much the same way I ate them in New York. I like to slice them in half with a serrated knife, and then I actually like to toast them because I love the crispiness. I love the added crispiness. So we are going to prepare some softened cream cheese. So I just pop mine in the microwave just to soften it, and then, guys, it's the law to add some capers. Like, it's the law. Then for a little bit of extra flavor, I add a tablespoon of that everything bagel mix, optional. But the reason I do this in the cream cheese mixture is because it actually prevents all of the toppings from like spilling out if you're just adding them on top of the cream cheese. So if you add them in the cream cheese, it doesn't spill out. Less mess, guys. It's all about less mess. Add your cream cheese on there, and then I like to add some red onion. Yes, I chew gum afterwards, so don't worry. And then really good quality salmon, smoked salmon. It's really important because it actually makes all the difference. Sandwich it, and then wrapping it. This is kind of my own invention. This is not the way they did it in New York. I don't know how they did it, but I figured this out because I wanted to get close to that experience. Plus, it makes eating it so much easier. It kind of looks like a lollipop. That's it, guys. Making your own bagels at home is really easy, and you can pop these away in a container and have one ready every morning. Okay, so when I filmed this video, the audio wasn't working, so I don't have these in front of me. What I can tell you is that these were so delicious. I went straight back to New York. It was like I was there 5 years ago, and it was they're just incredible. Like, they're really chewy, really crispy, much more delicious. They're not sweet like store-bought ones, and they're really easy to make, guys. If you want to give this recipe a go, I've left my recipe in the description box below for you guys. Try them, tag me on Instagram, Facebook, wherever, because you're gonna thank me when you do try them. They're so delicious. And if you've never been to New York, you're almost living the New York fantasy. But there is something about New York bagels that are just unbeatable. If you want to hit the like button, I would love that, because it lets YouTube know that people love this video and more people get to watch it. Plus, hit the subscribe button because it's free. And if you guys have other suggestions that you'd like to make, and if you guys have other suggestions of recipes you'd like to see me make at home instead of going out into the wild, which is unsafe these days, let me know in the comments down below, because you guys have the best ideas. I'll buy the store-bought version, we'll test it out and taste it, and I'll find a way to make it better at home. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen, guys. I hope you guys had fun. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen, guys. I hope you had fun watching this video. I'll see you all on the next episode of the Scran line. Oh, by the way, there are more videos up on screen right now that you can watch for free, and they're really great recipes, so give them a go.